So the Bengals not destroyed. I guess they beat the Cowboys last night by a touchdown. But coming into this
Yep.
year, you probably would have thought that was going to be a great game. But Dallas is
Yep.
without Dak, obviously, and Cincinnati's defense has sucked all year. Which one of these teams do you think returns to relevance the fastest?
Well, the answer is to me obviously Cincinnati because they have the great quarterback. Now they have some structural problems, and after the game they talked about keeping Higgins, Chase, and Joe together. That's just not happening there. Like they can keep um, Chase there, but they're not going to be able to keep T. Higgins there, and I think everyone at this point knows that. Like T. Higgins is going to be. I don't think they're franchise tagging him again, and he's going to be a free agent, and they're, you know what I mean, they're gonna go out and they're gonna have to pay Jamar Chase absolute top of market money, and so that's what's gonna happen. I to me it's not that surprising that this is the position they have found themselves in. I shouldn't say it's not that surprising. It's The Bengals made a decision that I disagreed with before the year, in that they didn't take care of their business with T. Higgins early enough and decide to trade him or extend him. And then they doubled down on that mistake by not giving Jamar an obvious extension last year when he was eligible. And that set to me, season off on the wrong foot. Now, the offense has been great despite all of that. It's been mostly defensive issues, but I think the Bengals have some retooling to do. The Cowboys just seem stuck, and they'll be relevant because they're the Cowboys. And that was actually a hell of a performance last night, and Micah is a such a massive difference maker. Just when he's out there defensively, they're a different team. But they are flirting with the idea of bringing Mike McCarthy back. Obviously, their three best players are coming back, Micah, CD, and Dak. So I just don't see what major change is going to come for the Cowboys for them to all of a sudden be a contender. And the Bengals defense can vary a ton year to year. The Bengals just need an average defense, and they right now would be 10-3 with an
So
average
you
defense instead of their position of 5-8.
are you still on the boat of they have like a real playoff chance this year? Like, do you think that?
Well, so I was doing some. It's funny you asked that. So the Bengals would have to win out, which if you look at their schedule, you say, well, that's possible. What they have the rest of the way is the Titans, who are terrible, the Browns, the Broncos in a huge game, and then at the Steelers in week 18, which maybe is a super meaningful game to Pittsburgh, or maybe Pittsburgh's resting people. So it's possible they win out and get to 9-8. It's not likely, but it's possible. The problem for Cincinnati that I came across today when I was doing it is, even if they win out, they are they have a very, very narrow path, which is they would need to win out and have the Broncos lose out, including the game to them. Then they would get in, theoretically. But the problem with that is, again, we're going in the weeds a bit, is the Broncos, if they lose out, the Broncos play the Colts this week. And the Colts are one of the teams ahead of Cincinnati in the standings. Again, this is probably a better article than podcast, but just stick with me for a minute. The Bengals max out at 9 wins, and the only team they could win the tiebreaker with, that also maxes out at 9 wins, is the Broncos, because they play them head to head. But for the Broncos to only get to 9 wins or fewer, they need to lose out, right? So follow me along this path. One of those losses would come to the Colts. Well, the Colts would win every tiebreaker with Cincy. And if the Colts beat the Broncos, they're at 7 wins with the following games left. Titans, Giants, Jags. So what the Bengals need to get into the playoffs is they win all their games. The Colts to beat Denver, or the Colts to beat Denver, and then the Colts, after beating Denver, to go 1-2 against Titans, Giants, Jags. That's a really tough putt. Or the other way is for the Broncos to beat the Colts and then the Broncos to promptly lose every game left on their schedule. So I do think that the Bengals, oddly, are a dangerous adjacent team, but they have a 2-6 conference record, which means they're going to lose every tiebreaker, and they max out at 9 wins. So they would have to hit the following exactas, essentially. They need to win all 4 of their games. They then need either the following things to happen. The Broncos to beat the Colts and then promptly lose all 3 of their games, or the Colts to beat the Broncos and the Broncos to lose 2 of their last 3 and the Colts to lose 2 of their last 3. You're just not going to get that, you know what I mean? All of those things to happen.
If the Bengals lose their next game, you sit Burrow. You sit him, right?
That's an interesting one. If they lose, the moment they get eliminated, do you sit Joe Burrow? Maybe. I mean, I think that. So here's a different one. Let's assume Burrow hasn't sat. Let me ask you this question, DeMonze. Who are your 3 AFC Pro Bowl quarterbacks?
3 AFC Pro Bowl quarterbacks? What do you mean?
That seems like a why are we asking this, but here's why. Josh Allen's in the AFC. Lamar Jackson's in the AFC. Patrick Mahomes is in the AFC. Joe Burrow's in the AFC. Which of those 4 guys is not getting a Pro Bowl seat this year? Do you have, what's your gut reaction answer?
If Joe Burrow, you're saying this is if Joe Burrow sits.
No, I'm saying, how about
just
this?
Just as now.
If you had to vote today, as it is right now, if you had to vote today, who's not getting a Pro Bowl spot in the AFC of those 4 quarterbacks?
Unfortunately, I don't. To go back and look, I mean, Burrow's obviously been carrying that. Mahomes?
Go ahead. So
I mean, has Lamar not had a better season, statistic wise, than Patrick Mahomes?
I think it would come down to Burrow or Mahomes. I think Lamar is kind of locked because his numbers are insane. Josh feels locked because he might win the damn league MVP. Right. So then you have Burrow or Mahomes. Burrow, who has the best numbers of any quarterback in football, but his team is 5-8. Mahomes, whose numbers are mediocre, but every single person who's watched the NFL this year, if they were being honest, and you asked them this question, hey, the Chiefs who are 12-1 and have the second best Super Bowl odds, but really they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl, what would their record be with any other quarterback? What do we think? 7-6? Like this Chiefs team that has the best. So it's a really weird spot.
Yeah.
One of those guys is not going to be a Pro Bowler. Now, if the Bengals were to do what you're not suggesting, but asking, which is if they sit Burrow, then it becomes an easier discussion. But I don't know who gets left out. Honest to God. It can't be Lamar. You can't put in Burrow over Lamar. You just can't. Like, you can put them both in, but Lamar, they've played twice. They've both played great in both games. Lamar's won both. His team's better. Their numbers are equivalent. He's got to be there. Josh Allen is the overwhelming favorite to win league MVP, so he's in there. And then you have a Burrow-Mahomes discussion, which is an interesting one. I am here to tell you. I'm here to tell you that I want nothing more than for the second straight year, the Chiefs to be shut out from all of the NFL awards, even like honors. Like they announce the NFL honors ceremony like Super Bowl week or the week before, and they announce the finalists. And last year, Coach of the Year, no. GM of the Year, no. Defensive Player of the Year, no. MVP, no. Like, they got shut out for everything. It's going to happen again, by the way. Mahomes obviously is not going to be MVP finalist. They're going to screw Chris Jones on being a Defensive Player of the Year finalist. Andy Reid's not even top 7 or 8 in Coach of the Year odds. If all that happens and they announce the Pro Bowl rosters, the Pro Bowl, and for the first time in his career, Patrick Mahomes is not a Pro Bowler, oh my God. They might beat everyone by 30 in the playoffs. I really hope it happens. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.